Today is day 18 of the Neopagan November Challenge, started by Brittany, the Sunshine State Witch. So today's topic is Earth. I'm wearing my green shirt in honor of that, since green is the correspondence for Earth, generally speaking. So I have a whole video on the element of Earth and correspondences and things. So instead I'm going to kind of talk about the Earth in my practice. So in general, I have always loved animals and nature. When I was really little, I would spend a ton of time outside. And obviously right now my hair is dyed purple, but naturally my hair is kind of an auburny color. But when I was younger, I spent so much time outside that my hair was actually blonde because it would be completely bleached in the sun. And so it was like that till about 8th grade. And then when I was older and into high school and had a lot more going on, like schoolwork and stuff like that, I didn't spend quite as much time outside. And so my hair started growing out and not being bleached. And I was actually surprised that it wasn't just blonde. Anyway, so some ways I kind of incorporate the earth into my practice is through simple techniques like grounding. When I meditate, I really enjoy visualizing being in a forest or a garden. Sometimes I'll be in my actual garden, and sometimes I will visualize like what I would love for my garden to look like my dream garden. I like gardening. I love being able to get my hands in the dirt and really commune with nature that way, work with the plants and their energies. I think it's really cool to be able to get a seed and plant it and see this tiny little seed grow into a big plant that then produces a lot of food or herbs you can use in your practice, beautiful flowers for the pollinators, all kinds of stuff like that. I think that's really magical within itself. And then if you're growing heirlooms, you can even then save the seed from your own plants and start the whole cycle over again, which I think is really cool because then you're getting free seeds, and then it's like even cooler because the seeds are from your garden rather than having to have bought them. Like I mentioned, I use herbs and plants. I do a lot of herbal witchcraft, things like I use herbs in cooking. I use them in different things like not incense, infused oils. I grow calendula and I dry the petals, and then I use them to make an infused oil that I then use to make things like salves, or I use them in my soap sometimes. I will often use rosemary infused oil to anoint candles for candle spells and stuff like that. I like to make some I've made tinctures before, but I like to make different herbal concoctions like for healing, like the salve I make, for example, is good for like skin issues. I've made a comfrey one that's good for like wounds and burns, not like open wounds, but like scars or just cuts but that have been closed and you just need to get them all the way healed, stuff like that. And as a witch and someone who works with a pagan and someone who works with a very nature-based practice, I find living or trying to live as eco-friendly, sustainable, and low-waste as possible to be very important in my practice. I know not all witches and pagans view that the same, but to me that's something very important. I know and recognize that it's not possible to be 100%. There's things that are inevitable that I can't really change, like having to take medication that comes in plastic bottles, things like that. But I do recycle everything I can. I try to use and reuse things. I mend stuff rather than just throwing it away. If there's stuff I no longer need that's still in good condition, I will donate it, or better yet, give it straight to someone I know will use it, because sometimes when you donate stuff, the place you donate to ends up throwing it away because they can't sell it or whatever. It doesn't sell fast enough, so it ends up in a landfill anyway. Then with stuff like my food scraps that end up not getting eaten, like vegetable peelings, stuff like that, I will compost those. I have two different, well, technically three, but styles of compost. I have like a compost pile where I pile stuff within this little type cage type thing I made, and you just flip the pile and you just let it sit and it composts over time. And then I have a compost tumbler where you put stuff in. It's like raised off the ground. It's like a plastic, sort of like a sideways barrel, and there's like a thing and you put stuff in and you like spin it. And I don't use that as much now that I use the pile, because that's just an easier method for me. And then I have what's called vermicomposting, which is like a bin, sort of like you can use like a Rubbermaid tote, and you do certain stuff to make it right, but then you have worms in there. And so like you're feeding the worms with your scraps, and they produce what's called worm castings, which is just a fancy name for worm poop. And that's really good as a soil amendment. And so like my pumpkins that I carved for Halloween / Samhain, afterwards, instead of like sending those to the landfill, I chop those up and freeze them in our big freezer, and then over time I feed those to my worms, and that'll last quite a while. And like I asked people around my neighborhood to give me theirs. So stuff like that is a big part of my practice, living eco-friendly and sustainable. And also when I purchase things, whenever possible, I try to purchase from more eco-friendly and sustainable brands, which includes things like not purchasing fast fashion as much as I can. I like to try to buy things secondhand or just from more, places that are just more environmentally friendly and more environmentally conscious. As opposed to like Shein or however you pronounce it, stuff like that that's like super wasteful and like doesn't have good practices toward their employees and stuff like that. And obviously I'm not perfect. I do purchase from Amazon sometimes. I purchase from, big box stores, Home Depot, stuff like that. But I do the best I can. And I know budget can be very limiting sometimes. The more sustainable brands and stuff are often more expensive. And, so when I know I can't purchase something that's more in that line, I will choose something that I know will last longer. Like purchasing, a shirt that I can tell is just higher quality, made better materials, better craftsmanship, as opposed to something that isn't going to last very long and won't really be able to be fixed and will have to be thrown away and end up in the landfill. So, I guess that's kind of it for Earth. Oh, I will just mention, like I said, I've always loved animals, and I do like helping out the animals, like in my garden, where there's certain things I do, like planting flowers for the pollinators. I garden all organically, so I'm not using those harsh chemicals and stuff that are going to kill everything. I don't use like rat poison that's going to end up killing owls and bigger birds and animals that would eat the poisoned rats, stuff like that. And then also, like, during the winter, we put out birdseed some, and like I've shown on my channel before, how I made those birdseed ornament things that I hung outside. The birds loved those. And in the summer here in Texas, it gets really hot. And there's certain areas of the yard that are just, there's no shade. It's just sun beating down 24/7, like where my garden is. I have to use shade cloth sometime, but I will put out bowls. I bought these bowls, and they're like, I was going to go with a ceramic, but I was afraid that might end up breaking, so I went with this hard, durable plastic, and I put some rocks in there and then fill them with water, and I keep them full, and the bees and insects can drink from them, and so can lizards and stuff like that. We have a bird bath, but like, because it's like, like a stick, and then like the bird bath goes like that, the lizards can't like get up onto it, and so the birds can drink from that. But we have a lot of lizards in the in the yard and in the surrounding areas, like the little green and brown ones, but then we also have these bigger ones that are sort of like horned toads, where they're spiky on the back, but they're lizards, they're not horned toads. Anyway, so I do stuff like giving them water and stuff to help out with our little earthly friends. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about Earth. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you tomorrow for the next video. All right, bye.